Right friends, welcome back to news of the day with the prelims focus, and today is 18th April and look at the news of the day first. The first one is look at this picture. There are some protests in Kashmir Valley, and day by day more and more people, especially students and young people, are getting alienated. That is the biggest worry for our country. Then the second point is not a front for Maoists, says Niyamgiri Samiti. This Niyamgiri Hills, the Gram Sabhas, basically that is a tribal population, and please see the name of the tribals, and that is predominantly tribal population, and the Gram Sabhas are opposing the bauxite mining, and this Niyamgiri Hills are situated in Rayagada and Kalahandi districts of Odisha, and they are opposing the bauxite mining, and there are news reports some Maoists have entered the region, but the Gram Sabhas or Niyamgiri Samiti says that it is not the front for Maoists. Here most important aspect is Niyamgiri Hills, they are situated in Odisha. This two districts, Rayagada and Kalahandi districts. Then at the same time they are opposing the bauxite mining in that region. Then the third news item is plastic bullets to replace pellet guns in Jammu and Kashmir. Pellet guns controversy during 2016, and Prasad committee alternatively suggested Pawa shells and pellet guns. They are one category of non-lethal weapons, and if you look at non-lethal weapons, there are several categories. These are water cannons, these are examples of non-lethal weapons. At the same time, pepper spray, this is another example. Similarly, tear gas, this is another example of non-lethal method of crowd dispersal. Then this is sticky foam used normally in foreign countries, then sleep gas. So, these are all examples of non-lethal methods of crowd control, and this pellet guns are also one of the crowd control mechanisms, and it is effective over shorter distances of 300 to 400 meters, and these are non-lethal, but the controversy is with regard to injuries to eyes. Several people lost their eyesight. That is the controversy with regard to pellet guns. Prasad committee suggested the usage of Pawa shells, but still pellet guns are being used in Jammu and Kashmir. Narrow win for S camp in Turkish referendum. Turkey referendum was held for giving unlimited powers to president. So, in examination, please understand the question. Name the country which has gone for referendum of changing from parliamentary republic to presidential republic. Sweeping powers are being given to the president through this referendum, and please look into the country Turkey. Capital is Ankara. Istanbul is the city. This is Istanbul, situated in two continents, Asia as well as Asia as well as Europe. Please understand, this Istanbul city is situated in two continents, Asia as well as Europe, and here this Bosphorus Strait separates the Black Sea with Sea of Marmara. Similarly, Dardanelles Strait is also there. So, these things, if you look at Turkey, are very, very important from geography perspective also. Then Nepal to go ahead with the local polls. Then constitution came into force in Nepal on September 20, 2015, but subsequently Madhesis are not happy. Madhesis are staying close to India border, close to Uttar Pradesh and Bihar areas. They are staying in Nepal, and that region is known as Terai region, and they are not happy with the constitutional provisions, but still without solving that issue, Nepal government has decided to go for the local polls, right. Look into the next one. Wholesale inflation decelerates to 5.7%, and two aspects should be in your mind when you look at examination perspective. One is consumer price index, the other one is wholesale price index. Consumer price index based inflation is also known as retail inflation, and this base year is relatively new. 2012 is the base year. And another important aspect is RBI takes into account this CPI inflation while deciding monetary policy. And another important aspect is the target given by the government to RBI is to control inflation within the limits of 4% plus or minus 2%, and that is CPI based inflation, and these figures are released by Central Statistics Office. Then if you look at wholesale price index inflation, here manufacturing has got more weightage in WPI, and this base year is quite old, 2004-5, and it is released by the Office of the Economic Advisor under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So, these aspects please understand. Government looks to sell stake in 7 public sector undertakings. Selling the stake in public sector undertakings is quite often into the news, and the department associated with this disinvestment, or you can say the department associated with the disinvestment is the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. Please understand, Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, that is the department under the Ministry of Finance, which looks at selling the stake sale in public sector undertakings. And another important aspect is Niti Aayog is also associated while identifying the public sector enterprises meant for strategic sale. And you may have a doubt, what is the difference between minority stake sale and strategic sale? Please look into this. Disinvestment or divestment can be of two types. One is minority stake sale and the other one is a strategic sale. What is minority stake sale? Minority stake sale is selling part of the stake by keeping 51% ownership by the government, and strategic sale is selling entirely or coming out of majority control by the government. So, the loss making public sector undertakings normally identified in a phase wise basis by Niti Aayog for strategic sale, right. So, the important public sector undertakings like BHEL, NTPC, Coal India, normally what happens is 5 to 10% stake sale takes place, right, to reduce the government stakeholding, right. Next one is cyber response unit to be set up, says Reserve Bank. Recently, a subcommittee of the Financial Stability and Development Council meeting was held. You may have a doubt, what is meant by FSDC? FSDC is Financial Stability and Development Council. It is under the Ministry of Finance. Chairman is the Finance Minister, and here basically FSDC purpose is to look at macro prudential supervision, or you can say whether the without prejudice to the autonomy of the regulators, the council monitors macro prudential supervision at the same time, or you can say it is basically coordination aspect with regard to financial sector regulators, right. Now, subcommittee meeting has decided to go for computer emergency response team for the financial sector, or CERT-FIN, computer emergency response team for the financial sector. So, this is recommended by the subcommittee of FSDC. So, please understand FSDC role and what is its composition, right. Then no need for a borrowing freeze. This is basically with regard to NK Singh committee. NK Singh committee was constituted to suggest modifications to FRBM Act of 2003. Now, it suggested 2-3 important aspects. Till 2020, fiscal deficit can be 3% of GDP. Up to 2023, that means by 2023, fiscal deficit should be reduced to 2.5%, and there is escape clause. Escape clause is basically to be enforced when there are serious problems like war or natural calamities of extending the fiscal deficit through escape clause by 0.5%. And another important aspect is to look at all these things. The committee recommended fiscal council. Then next important aspect is by 2023, the committee recommended overall public debt to GDP is to be restricted to 60% of GDP, 40% for center, 20% for states. So, by 2023, if the recommendation is implemented, total public debt to GDP will be restricted to 60% for both the center and the states put together, and at present it is 68% or so. Right, I think you are clear about this encasing committee recommendations. So, it will be a potential question for mains examination about fiscal council. Do you agree with the stipulation of 60% public debt to GDP by 2023? So, similar questions are expected in mains this year, right. So, fiscal deficit, if I take personally, I can borrow money up to some limit. Basically, borrowed money, this is personal example, this is government example. This is personal example, this is government example. If you take personal example, we can borrow money up to some limit depending on our income, and borrowed money or and borrowed money normally to be spent for creation of assets. Similarly, when central government borrows money, it can borrow only up to certain limit. That is why fiscal deficit percentage is fixed. Then that money must be used for creation of assets, that is known as capital expenditure. So, the borrowed money must be used for creating assets or capital expenditure. Then what is the need for limiting fiscal deficit? If fiscal deficit increases, it will give rise to high public debt, because accumulation of fiscal deficit is nothing but public debt. Then another point is it will give rise to inflationary tendencies, and another important aspect is more money will go for interest payments, less money will be left for the government for development and revenue expenditure. So, that is why there is a need for reducing the fiscal deficit. Then TCS shareholders approve buyback. These buybacks is into the news. You can expect a question in prelims, not only in prelims, mains also. Why companies in recent times are going for buybacks instead of dividends? This can be potential question, and here see the difference between dividend and buyback. So, dividend is normally distributed to the shareholders when company is in profits, whereas buyback is purchasing the shares from the open market, so as to reduce the shares, and shares outstanding will be reduced here. And what are the circumstances, under what circumstances companies will go for buyback? All these things we will discuss in the discussion, in the subsequent discussions of civil services prelims, right. So, with this, let us conclude this here and let us go to the questions. Spectrum trading and spectrum sharing, these two words came to the focus in 2016. Spectrum sharing, spectrum trading. Spectrum is, that is airwaves in certain band, and spectrum trading and spectrum sharing, these are into the news quite frequently. Read the following sentences in this context. First sentence is, spectrum sharing allows the companies to share airwaves in the same band. In the same band, Reliance can share the spectrum, or you can say airwaves of Vodafone, or Airtel can share the airwaves of Vodafone. Then the second point, spectrum trading means telecom companies, after taking the spectrum from the government, if there are surplus spectrum is there, they can sell spectrum. So, trading is allowed among the telecom companies. Third point is, what is the advantage of both the telecom spectrum sharing and spectrum trading? By sharing the airwaves, by trading the airwaves, the biggest advantage is it results in optimum utilization of the scarce spectrum. Spectrum is plentifully not available, so the scarce spectrum can be utilized in optimum way, and hence the fewer call drops, and ultimately telecom companies will be benefited. So, all three is the right answer here. Look into the next one. Which of the following is the agreement between two or more countries for gathering and exchanging information to enforce public or criminal laws? Which of the following is intended for gathering and exchanging information to enforce public or criminal laws? First one is MCAA. What is MCAA? Multilateral Competent Authority Agreement. Multilateral Competent Authority Agreement is when countries sign to Multilateral Competent Authority Agreement, and please do not forget, this is piloted by OECD, and when countries sign this MCAA, then ultimately what happens? The automatic exchange of information takes place. So, for understanding the information, one country's financial information must be understandable by other country. So, to understand clearly, common reporting standards are being developed. So, the information should be in the format of common reporting standards or CRS, and subsequently automatic exchange of information takes place. Automatic exchange of information or AEOI. So, the framework AEOI and common reporting standards, India is also signatory to MCAA, and India has to share information from September 2017 to other countries. Similarly, we get information from other countries. So, it will prevent tax evasion, or tax avoidance measures will also be understood by the government. So, when you are answering a mains question also, you can quote MCAA as the mechanism for prevention of tax evasion or black money. Then BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting. These are the measures engaged by multinational companies for shifting their profits to low cost destinations or no tax destinations or low tax destinations. They shift the profits one way or the other, and they avoid paying tax in countries where the predominant income comes to them. So, BEPS is the strategy adopted by multinational companies to reduce their tax incidence, or you can say tax avoidance. So, BEPS is the mechanism by multinational companies, and here please understand, now guidelines are being formulated basically to prevent BEPS, right? And India is signing several agreements with other countries, and that is also part of the strategy to avoid this BEPS, right. Then third one is MLAT. So, this is the agreement, or you can say this is the agreement between two or more countries for gathering and exchanging information to enforce public or criminal laws. This is the right answer. Then what is FATCA? FATCA is the agreement between USA and other countries. India is also signed to USA, or you can say India is also signatory to FATCA. As India is also signatory to FATCA, if any US national is investing in India, his financial information we have to give to US. Similarly, the investments by Indians in USA, they have to share information with us. So, this is between India and USA, that is FATCA. So, FATCA is also one mechanism basically to look at black money, because the information will be available from America with regard to investments by our nationals there. Right. So, these four are very important from examination perspective. Out of these four, MCAA and FATCA, please understand, you can quote this in mains examination also. Recently, FSSAI, the food regulator, prescribed maximum permissible level of melamine. Maximum permissible level of melamine. What is the answer? The answer here is milk. In milk, FSSAI stipulated maximum permissible level of melamine. What is the reason? In milk, the answer is milk. In milk, water is normally added. Then when water is added, the protein content will reduce, and we test the protein content with the measurement of nitrogen. So, when water is added, then protein content will go down. Similarly, nitrogen content will also go down, but artificially to increase nitrogen content, to get better result when the milk is tested, this melamine is added. And now FSSAI recently introduced maximum permissible limit of melamine in milk. Look into the next one. Recently, supermoon is into the news. Read the following sentences in this context. Supermoon is the full moon which became closest to the earth since 1948, and this phenomena occurred in 2016. Supermoon is the full moon which became closest to the earth since 1948. This phenomena occurred in 2016. So, when it is closest to the earth, it apparently looks bigger. It apparently looks bigger. So, when it comes closest, please look into this picture, and at the same time please look into this picture. During its revolution around earth, when moon comes close to the earth, at the same time, recently what happened? One full moon day resulted in closest to the earth. That means both coincided, full moon day and the nearest to the earth. So, these two coincided, and because of that moon looks bigger. So, perigee is when moon is closer to earth, apogee is when moon is farther to earth. So, supermoon, please go through the news item and you will find much more when you read the news item. So, supermoon is the full moon which became closest to the earth since 1948 in the year 2016, and it will happen once again in 2030s. First sentence is correct. Second one is, when moon revolves around the earth, the closest point is known as perigee, not apogee. So, the second one is wrong. So, A is the right answer. Which of the following proposed legislation is intended to look at the cases of investments without any commercial purpose other than tax avoidance? Which of the following proposed legislation is intended to look at the cases of investments without any commercial purpose other than tax avoidance? This is general anti-avoidance rule. which came into force from 1st April. So, GAR, General Anti-Avoidance Rule, this is applicable to look at the investments without any commercial purpose, only for the purpose of tax avoidance. If some investments are made in some other country only for the purpose of tax avoidance, then general anti-avoidance rules will come into picture. And to decide with regard to whether it is for really commercial purpose or not, point of effective management rules or POEM rules are devised by the finance ministry, please understand. Then second one is advanced pricing agreements. This is between the parent company and subsidiary. Parent company and subsidiary, if the transactions takes place so as to avoid future litigations, initially these agreements are being devised between income tax authorities and the companies. These are known as advance pricing agreements. Remaining two I explained to you already. Paris Agreement came into force on 4th November 2016. Read the following sentences in this context. Paris Agreement intends to keep global temperature increase to well below 2 degrees centigrade in comparison to pre-industrial levels. This is absolutely correct, preferably to limit to 1.5 degrees centigrade. Then 100 billion a year, this green climate fund will be 100 billion a year. This is climate finance for developing countries. By 2020, $100 billion must be made available. Please remember about Green Climate Fund, and with a commitment to enhance further finance in future. Then the next one is to review the progress of greenhouse gas emissions once in 5 years but not 3 years. So, 1 and 2, C is the right answer. Right, please don't forget about Green Climate Fund, $100 billion. Developed countries are supposed to arrange for climate finance for developing countries. And a question is expected on Kigali Pact also. Please recollect Kigali Pact. And at the same time, Ross Island in Antarctica, marine protected zone, or you can say marine protected area. Ross Island, please recollect. At the same time, Kigali Pact, please recollect, we will discuss in the coming classes, right. So, Paris Pact came into force on 4th November. Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN. This conference was held recently in Hyderabad in 2016. In this context, look at the following sentences. What is ICANN? ICANN is the non-profit body that works in the area of keeping internet secure and interoperable. Internet must be secure and interoperable, and it is non-profit body, and it represents internet enabling companies, internet users, intellectual property organizations, government and non-government organizations. These two sentences are correct. Third one is, from October 1, the management control has gone into the hands of USA is wrong. In fact, management control has gone out of USA government. So, 1 and 2 is correct. Next one, look at the following sentences with regard to Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog, first sentence, it is the premier policy think tank of Government of India. It is the premier policy think tank, and it provides both directional and policy inputs. Then second point is, it is executive body. This is correct, please understand. It replaced the planning commission. Chairperson is the prime minister. All 4 sentences are correct. Read the following sentences. A panel found the existence of Saraswati river in the northwestern part of the country. These are the news items of 2016. A panel found the existence of Saraswati river in the northwestern part of the country, and the river flowed into Rann of Kutch. As per the committee report, I think if I am not wrong, it is Valdia panel. So, Valdia panel report said that Saraswati river existed and it flowed into Rann of Kutch, and IIT Kharagpur scientists found the evidence of Chandrabhaga river which flowed adjacent to the Sun temple in Konark. Then most important aspect is the identification of paleo channels are primarily corroborating the existence of these rivers. So, how the rivers are found to be in existence? Because of paleo channels. This is one important aspect. What is meant by paleo channels? Paleo channels are the old remnants of rivers where it is covered with silt of quite younger in nature. So, the silt is covered in the old existing channels. On the top of it, silt is covered and silt is relatively young age. That is why they came to the conclusion with regard to the existence of Saraswati river and Chandrabhaga river. So, all three are correct. Here most important aspect is paleo channels. Please understand what is the meaning of paleo channels. Then look at the following organizations: National Human Rights Commission, Law Commission, National Tiger Conservation Authority, Competition Commission of India. Which of the above are statutory bodies? Here Law Commission is executive body. At present we are into 21st Law Commission and it is advisory body, and basically to ensure faster justice to the people, what needs to be done. So, it advises on those aspects. And National Human Rights Commission, this is statutory body. National Tiger Conservation Authority, which is primarily vested with implementation of Project Tiger. Then Competition Commission of India. Competition Commission of India is a fair trade regulator so as to prevent monopolistic tendencies. So, these three are statutory bodies. So, the answer is 1, 3 and 4. Right friends, we will conclude today's discussion here. Tomorrow we will be with you with 10 more questions. Have a nice day. Thank you. Please do join for editorial discussion within next 5 minutes. Right. Thank you.